Guys, you are in for a treat this evening. This story, which is very true, which is entirely true, is a combination, potentially, of the paranormal / supernatural and a conspiracy theory that is based on fact. What's this have to do with the title? Look, here's the ugliest woman I ever woke up in bed with? A lot. I'm going to show you a picture of her. She's hideous. When you see her, you'll agree. What? You're angry because you clicked on the video just to see how ugly this woman was? And you just fast forwarded to that part? And I had the picture held backwards so you didn't get to see her, and now you're angry? You're as angry as if I'd talked about well-seasoned red oak? Okay, guys, many years ago, 10 or 12 years ago, I took a trip to England. I took several trips to England around that time. I went over there to visit my children who were living there at the time. I ended up staying in a hotel. I wish for the life of me I could remember the name of this hotel, because I would tell you it was in Preston, England. We have a lot of viewers from the UK, particularly in England. And when I mentioned Preston, because I have several times on this channel, I've talked about trips I used to take to Preston. We've had people comment that they live in Preston, and one gentleman has even told me I could stay with him if I ever come back. Preston is just south of Manchester. If you're from over there, if you've traveled there, you know, you fly into Manchester and you take this wonderful train south to Preston. And that's what I would do back in those days when I would go there to visit my children. This hotel that I stayed in was centuries old. Now, I live in Virginia, central Virginia, just outside of Charlottesville. I used to not just throw that out there, but what I found after many years of working in social media is that creepy stalker types are going to find you anyway. So it doesn't matter. Okay. This place is old. My point of that is, you know, Virginia, the settlement of Jamestown, 1604, just a couple hundred miles away. Charlottesville's a very old town. Thomas Jefferson, who went to William and Mary College, the oldest university in the United States, would of course found UVA, the university, as it's known, the Harvard of the South, the only university in existence, mind you, to a lot of the alumnus. Because if you're asked, that's one of the things you find out when you first move to Charlottesville. You're asked if you attended the university. The wrong answer that you should never give is, which one? I used to give that answer. That's how I found out. So anyway, you think Virginia is old? England, I mean, because that's where we came from, you know, a large part of us. This nation was founded from, you know, Jamestown was a British colony, and then you know the history. So the point of this is I stayed in a hotel that was 300 or 400 years old. And it was, now the hotel itself was not, it was, the building was though. The building originally was a textile plant. And this goes back into the days before there were any form of child labor laws. This is goes back, I think it was the 16 or 1700s, I was told, because I did get the details on this hotel after I found out it was indeed haunted. I saw it and it looked haunted, and I felt in my soul it was haunted. And my kids and I, while we stayed in that hotel, we would go around from floor to floor, just we were acting as if we were ghost hunting. They were very young, and one of my daughters would say, "Look, Daddy, I feel like there's a ghost over there." I'd take a picture, and this is back before smartphones. or at least before I had a smartphone, we had a digital camera. And then when we transferred the pictures to the laptop and blew them up, sure enough, there were orbs where my daughter was pointing. I mean, it was really freaky, but it gets even freakier than that, because I went to bed every night in that hotel, and when I woke up, just as the sun was coming up the next morning, because they were like 5 hours ahead of us, East Coast time, so I would wake up at odd times. I've got the picture of the most hideous, the ugliest woman with whom I ever woke up in my life. You want to see her? I mean, you talk about, it's terrible for me to be saying ugly, because I know the backstory and I know why she looks like this, and you're going to get the backstory here in this video, and you'll understand why she looks the way she does. What? You're upset because you clicked on the video because of the title and you wanted to see the picture? So yet again, you just scrolled straight until the part in the video where I'm holding up the frame to see how ugly she was, and you didn't get to see her, so you're angry? You're as angry as if I'd mentioned well-seasoned black cherry? All right, you're all saying by this point, Crazy Lake, what does well-seasoned mixed hardwoods have to do with people getting angry? I don't know. In this story, well, I do know that. I'll tell you about it. Is this thing called MK Ultra, okay? You can Google it. This is real. I Googled it because I've had so many vertically challenged individuals who live under bridges come on this channel, comment in the comment section that I'm part of it. I'm a experiment dummy guinea pig test whatever rat of MK Ultra. Well, after about 500 or 600 people saying that, I got curious as to what that was, so I Googled it. To my understanding, MK Ultra was a CIA operation where they took people, mostly combat veterans, mostly active duty military types, because as you know, when you enlist in the military, you are government property. You willingly sign away your civil rights. And they experimented on them with psychotropic drugs and like keyword phrases. Now, the psychotropic drug things is part of the story about the haunted hotel in Preston, England. Because back in those days when I would visit my children there in Preston and I would stay at that hotel, I'm just going to put it out there. I was on a bunch of prescribed psychotropes, among other variously assorted alphabet soup crap I was given from the Army Hospital and from the VA, the Veterans Affairs. MK Ultra or not, I'm kind of leaning probably towards the not, but I do believe I was part of an experimental test group for a lot of newly synthesized pharmaceuticals distributed to combat veterans through the VA, hoping to later be put on the market. Some were, some probably weren't. Some of those I remember being told, oh, here, take this. Don't worry, it's non-narcotic, it's not addictive. And then going back 3 months later when you're all strung out like this, they're going, oh, you remember that thing we said was non-narcotic and non-addictive? And you're like, oh, I'm trying to remember your name. And they're like, well, bad news it is. And now it's registered as a class 1. And don't take too many of those and blah, blah, blah. It was a very, very dark period in my life. But that's what was going on. So when I was at this hotel, and trust me, the MK Ultra thing and the seasoned hardwood and the key phrases, it does tie together. Just hang in there. Just hang in there. You're going to hear about it, and you're going to get to see the hideous. It's so terrible because the story is going to break your heart. I know. Here's your well-seasoned hard maple. Okay? So here's the deal. With that MK Ultra thing, I'm convinced these people that accuse me of being cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs and talk about me being this, that, and the other, I think we've got some projecting going on. Because as you know, I know you've heard it said before, every time we point the finger at somebody, we've got three pointing back at ourselves. Maybe those vertically challenged individuals who live under bridges, who are doing all this and all that, maybe need to look and see where these three are pointing. Why? So I made a video 2 weeks ago where I mentioned well-seasoned red oak 3 times. People lost their minds. So I jokingly made one the other day and I mentioned well-seasoned white oak or whatever. Same thing happened. Well, okay, I wanted to test this MK Ultra theory. So just yesterday, I made a video with my beautiful bride, Dearly, aka Giggly Girl. If you guys aren't subscribed to her channel, go do it now. It's called Life with Dearly. We made a video where we were splitting a bunch of mixed, well-seasoned hardwoods, and I was goofing off, and I told this story about how it ticked people off, and I was doing so using well-seasoned black cherry, and my wife never gets hit up by vertically challenged individuals who live under bridges. People love her. They go to her channel and they're like, oh, you're so cute. I love your laugh. You're so adorable. I want to adopt you. And then there are, of course, the creepers that are like, if you're ever single, call me. And they give her their number. I mean, seriously, but I'm crazy, right? Anyway, when I said well-seasoned black cherry and I showed it, people lost their minds. Vertically challenged individuals who live under bridges said mean things to my wife. So I'm convinced, even though when I've got a buddy, I can't say who he is and I can't specifically say which organization he's involved with, but he's still active. He told me MK Ultra was real, but it's been set aside. They don't do it anymore because of all it just didn't work. Another failed CIA technique, mind control thing. I'm not so sure that one of the code phrases out there for some folks that might be getting poked and prodded on in regard to that is well-seasoned hardwoods of various sorts. That's code for, okay, it's time to lose your minds. So that gets the MK Ultra thing out, and it pertains to this ghost story because when I was staying there in Preston at this haunted hotel, I was on a lot of this crap. A lot of these test experimental medications, they call them. I call them brain poison. That's just me. I'm not a doctor, not qualified to give advice. I'm only telling you about my experiences, of which I am completely qualified to do. So I would go to sleep, and it felt as if, just before I woke up, it felt as if somebody were crawling on my bed. Now, mind you, my kids were not in the room with me. They were back at their mother's place. I was alone. And no, I wasn't going down to the hotel bar and hooking up. That's just not who I am. Never has been. I just think that's gross, okay? But it felt like somebody was crawling on the bed. I would wake up and I would look down and there would be a woman, a young woman, like 20-ish, early 20s, and half of her face was absolutely gorgeous, and the other half was crushed, but there was no blood. It didn't look melted as if it had been burned in a fire. It just looked crushed, and she was smiling and giggling, but I couldn't hear it. I could tell just the aura of laughter was there, like nervous laughter, giggling. Like I felt as if she thought I was cute, and try my best, I could not reciprocate those feelings. I guess half of her face was kind of cute, but the other half wasn't, okay? I'm going to go ahead and show you. Now, this is an artist's rendition of the woman I saw, okay? And this happened 3 mornings in a row. My last 3 mornings there, or next to the last whatever. I think that time I was there 5 days or 7 days. This is what she looked like. Here's the artist's rendition. Okay, I'm, of course, the artist. I know, I hear you. You're like, wow, Crazy Lake. You can write, you can tell stories. We've seen you've, done some of your own music. You've recorded some of your own music videos on this channel. You starred in the full-length featured film, Bigfoot Sasquatch the Movie, arguably the greatest Bigfoot Sasquatch movie ever, as well as the greatest full-length featured film over 2 hours long, recorded exclusively on an Apple iPhone 11s model. And now you're telling us you're also an artist? Yeah, because this looks just like her. Beautiful, like I feel like running my fingers through her hair right now and just hoping to God my beautiful bride dearly, aka Giggly Girl, doesn't watch this video and feel overcome with jealousy. But the other side of her face, not so much. There, are you happy? Hate to ruin it for you with my well-seasoned red oak. It's taking a second to listen. You never know who might return that call. All right, so my last night in this haunted hotel, I call it the Hotel Preston, but that's not its name. I do go down to the restaurant/bar. It's my last night. I'm flying out the next day. And I start talking to the lady, wonderful English lady that's working there at the bar. And let me tell you this, before I started traveling around the world, I was very hesitant. I mentioned this in other videos, because if you live in the US, if you're an American, and if you have anything to do with American mainstream media, which I particularly don't, but I guess back then maybe I did a little, you hear this great lie that the entire world hates America. Everybody hates America. What I will tell you, and of course I've lived around the world, almost a decade overseas, but when I went to England for that first time, I was afraid to talk, because I was afraid that when people heard my American accent, they would tell me how much they hated me and how everything in the world was my fault and blah, blah, blah. Wasn't true. Two things happened. I got two questions afterwards. When they would say, "Are you an American?" And I would say yes, and I was prepared for the worst. And they would light up like a Christmas tree, welcome me to England, and then ask me if I've ever been to Disney World. And I was like, I would tell them no. For some reason, like, not all of them, but so many people in England wanted to know if I'd ever been to Disney World. And they told me they wanted to go to Disney World. Secondly, if I was in a restaurant like that night, after I told them I hadn't been to Disney World, they would give me a Coke. They'd say, here's a Coca-Cola on the house. Welcome to England from America. I hope to go to it. A lot of them told me they hope they can go to America someday. Told them we'd love to have you. Okay, you've welcomed me, I would gladly welcome you. So, no, don't tell the people that believe what they see in the news, but everybody around the world does not hate Americans. Unless you start running your mouth about your well-seasoned black cherry. That'll just set people off everywhere. So after this lovely lady gives me my free Coke and tells me of her fantasies of coming to America and going to Disney World, I tell her about a series of strange dreams I believed I was having while I was there at the Hotel Preston, which is not really the Hotel Preston. She hears me out and then she says, "Oh, so you saw her too?" And I said, "Saw who?" And it was then that she gave me the history of that hotel. She explained that it did indeed start out as a textile plant and that numerous women and children were killed working 20-hour days. They would fall asleep at the machinery and they would be crushed. And there was far more than just me who had reported waking up with this woman in their bed in that room at the Hotel Preston. I hope you enjoyed this story. If you did, keep coming back for more.